Girlfriends, I'm Carrie Fitzsimmons.
And I'm Lacey Wilson.
And we're delighted that you joined us tonight. Lacey, we have a very special program tonight.
I'm really excited. David Carroll is going to be joining us in just a short little bit to talk about some of the history of television and radio in Chattanooga. And it's actually remarkable. We got to hear him talk a few weeks ago.
We did. He did a wonderful job. So I'm excited to hear him again.
Some of those famous faces you never knew were right in our back doors.
Yeah, and didn't we say I guess it's been about 3 weeks ago now, that if they called in, we already have a caller.
We already have a caller. They are excited
They
tonight.
are.
But if you have a question later, feel free to give him a call once he's on air. You want to go ahead and take that caller?
Hi, caller.
Yes, but you tell me where the Deliverance Outreach Service, the church is.
I'm sorry, that show is pre-recorded before we get here. I don't know. I'm sure if you called the main line of the station, they'd be able to tell you.
Do you know what that number is?
I don't know. Let me see. I have your number here. I can give it to them. I can give your number to the station.
Oh, that's all right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Carrie, Valentine's Day is quickly approaching.
It is.
And you were looking up some stats earlier. Just about, I think it was $17.6 billion were spent annually on Valentine's Day. I'm wondering if that's chocolate or...
Well, here are the numbers. This is from Time Magazine. Valentine's Day spending by the numbers. Let's see here. $147 is the amount that the average couple in New York spends going out to eat.
Yeah, you know, it's expensive up there. I went to visit a couple of years ago and the food and everything, but do you know what I liked better than everything? It was like the $3 hot dog on the on the sidewalks, you know, the sidewalk vendors, but $147 for dinner.
Well, and the next line says 11% of people in that survey plan on splitting the check.
Oh, wow. Oh, but even so, 147 divided by 2, I mean, that's like, what, $73.50? That's still kind of pricey. I don't know.
8 billion number of sweetheart candies produced. Those little... Yeah. I don't even think they taste that good.
I don't either, but that was the big thing. Even in elementary school, you got a box of the sweetheart candies,
I remember that.
And you got to pick out the letters.
Do you remember the Valentines we do in elementary school where they'd have a little sticker with your picture? Do you remember that?
Those, I remember getting the box of Valentines, you know, and you would tear them off. They were perforated, and you would write on the back of them who you wanted them to go to, and everybody had their own little cubby hole.
But these were actually, I think they were made by Olin Mills, and they had... You could have your little picture on there, and it would stick to the card it came with.
Well, and speaking of Olin Mills, I think they're going out of business too.
They are, and Life Touch, I guess, is owned by them as well. They're also going out. And I remember Life Touch because we were both in journalism class.
Yearbook editor. You were the yearbook editor too, weren't you?
No, not in high school.
You were. I thought you were.
I was in the class, but I wasn't the editor.
Okay. Good times.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, let's see here. It also says...
the red roses. $80 to $60.
Yeah, I read something that says they go up a lot for February.
You know, it's kind of sad, though, to spend that much money on flowers that are just going to die a few days later. I don't know. I'm not big on Valentine's Day. I don't...
I just like it because of the pink and red.
Well, that is true. Although I don't like the pink and red together, just the pink.
Okay. Well, and then the last line says $0, the amount you'd spend on Valentine's if you take the advice of one blogger and break up with your significant other before the holiday takes place. That's kind of harsh.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's not going anywhere, you might as well save a little bit of money.
Well, I think that's what this one couple might do after she's from Chattanooga or Dayton, and she was arrested.
This was on the news this morning, was it not?
It was. Woman arrested after allegedly hitting her husband with honey buns.
The box of
Don't you
honey
love
buns.
that headline?
So is it the box of honey buns or the actual honey bun package? I don't know.
A box. It says. They
I'm
were
sure that
arguing
might
over
make
a
some
box.
national news too. You know those
Like the Jay Leno's. Yeah.
strange but true stories. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and then what else were we gonna? Oh, okay. Well, here's a couple who might have some conflict in the future. Giselle and Tom Brady.
Yeah. She slipped up. She did. Tom Brady, as you know, was the losing quarterback in the Super Bowl. And then as she's walking away, she's got paparazzi and everybody following her, and she's got her own entourage of people. And somebody was heckling her about his poor performance, and she kind of snapped back with, well, he can't throw the football and catch the football, which is a direct insult to his teammates. So I'm sure they weren't very happy with her, but it was actually caught on video, and it's been playing on sports shows and online all week. So I don't know. I don't know. He's still got a supermodel wife, though, so I'm sure he's not too disappointed either way, but definitely not. I mean, I don't
Well,
think
and they've called her like a curse to the team.
The Giselle curse, I think, because he has not won a Super Bowl since they
really?
got together. Yeah,
didn't know
before
that.
then, I think he did. He won a couple. So who knows?
Yeah, she definitely slipped up.
Well, you can't bash your husband's I mean, that's essentially his coworkers. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they'll have the whole off season though to mend broken bridges. I guess I don't know.
And just in time for Valentine's Day, a Florida judge ruled on Tuesday that a man involved in a scuffle with his wife should treat her to an evening at the local bowling alley and a romantic meal at Red Lobster.
So how did this come about? I mean, is this civil court or what?
Oh my goodness.
I'm just thinking he wouldn't be very happy if he was forced to do it.
Well, apparently he had domestic violence charges. They were very minor, but they were still charges against him. So, and otherwise he had a clean record. So I guess this was it's kind of comical though.
If somebody got domestic charges against me, I would not want to go with them to a bowling
alley where there are large objects.
Or just in dinner in general, I think. I don't know. Oh my goodness. So what have you been up to this week?
It's been busy at work, but it's been good. We've had very nice weather lately.
We have. I'm starting to love this whole global warming thing, But actually, it is turning off colder. You mentioned that too. Possibly a little bit of snow.
I know. And on my
Saturday.
way home tonight, I saw the daffodils already out. They're already blooming.
I saw an article though, and it was talking about the peach crops in Georgia because it got so warm. And then it's going to turn off cold again, and it could ruin the whole crops, which would be devastating for just the economy in general. So hopefully they'll be okay.
I hope that. Yeah, I hope so too.
We'll have some Georgia peaches.
I know. And that time of year is coming up, so.
It is. But I hope it doesn't get too cold this weekend.
I know. It's supposed to snow in higher elevations, but.
Snow though. It's. Working at the blood bank, snow is not on our nice list. On my Facebook feed, it's always funny to see anybody who works for a school system. They get so excited when they mention snow, and that's the worst case scenario for us. So
because you have to drive in it, and no one will come, right?
No one will come. Well, and they tell you because we're not equipped to drive in it, and the road departments don't always have enough salt and that sort of thing too. So it's just not a safe environment. So, and they always tell you on the news, stay put. If you're, if you don't have to get out, don't get out. And people don't get out, and they definitely don't donate blood. So.
And name the two items in the grocery store that'll be gone.
Bread and milk. Bread and milk.
Why is it just bread and milk?
I don't know. I guess because
I mean, if
The
you're
milk you could put out in the snow
I guess
and
you
keep
could,
it cold.
but
And then the bread. But they never say what to eat with the bread.
With the bread.
I just wouldn't want bread. I mean, maybe
I
they
know,
think
maybe peanut butter.
they think you already have the peanut butter, I guess. I don't know.
It's always bread and milk. It's kind of comical.
Well, it is. And I mean, the shelves will be wiped out around here, so I don't know. Do you have like a weather radio, or do you have like a backup plan? Do you really?
We have a weather radio, but you know, when the tornadoes came, the weather radio didn't have batteries in it, and the electricity wasn't working, and we relied heavily on social media, on phones.
That is true. Yeah. Well, and power was out for a lot of people too. So even just charging your phone in your car, you could do pretty well with that. So
yeah, I hope this spring is nicer to us.
I hope so, but I don't know. A mild winter. I don't know if that means it'll be 120 degrees in August.
And
or
March
something.
is coming up, and you can never tell one way or the other what it's going to do in March.
Well, that is true. And then Easter, I think, is in April.
Very first part of April.
Is it? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, well, and you never know about the weather then, too. You don't know how to dress for that. So,
do you plant?
My husband plants. He does. He has a green thumb for that sort of thing, though. I believe we have another caller.
We do. Hello.
Hello. I just wanted to ask you girls, you're always giving such good advice on your program. If you all have sweethearts and what you have in mind to do, hopefully I can listen and get an idea. I'm going to listen to you now. Maybe you can share some thoughts what you're going to do for your sweeties. Thanks.
Take that.
That's a good question. Well, I do have a sweetheart. He's probably watching now. Valentine's Day, I think I was single for so long, I just didn't like the holiday. I didn't like it. And he'll probably disagree with me, but
he's watching.
Oh, well, I'm sure. Sorry, honey. No, women are always, you don't have to get me anything. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. And then when you think they're not going to, you get a little upset about it. I think I did that last year, so I'm going to be nice this year.
Did
I don't
he not
really
do
need
anything?
No, he did. I think he used to have flowers delivered, which I don't know. I think for women, it's almost like bragging, right? You get flowers delivered to the office.
Wait. You just said that you think they're a waste of money.
Well, they are, but they're it depends on what color. I don't like red roses.
You don't like red?
I don't like red roses. I like pink roses, hint. But arrangements, assortment of arrangements or whatever. I do like the flowers, but the last couple of years he started going to, it was First Things First and March of Dimes. They both have the tulip fundraisers.
I saw that billboard.
And so he would get me, it's like a little $10 vase of baby tulips and bring them to my desk or my office. So he started hand delivering them too, which was sweet. So
you're talking about different color of roses, and different colors have different meanings. Did you know that?
Red is what, passion, I guess?
I'm going to look it up.
I do like the pink. That was when I was in college. I was in a sorority, and the pink rose was our rose or our flower.
Oh, ours was white.
Was it the white rose?
Yeah.
So do you have a sweetheart, Carrie? We have to give our callers good advice.
I know. There's someone special, yes.
Well, that's good. That's good. And that's another thing too. She was asking about what to do for your significant other, but Groupons. I mean, they have.
I saw that.
Some dinners and some events and stuff, and movie tickets. You can always get some pretty good deals too. So
okay, so here are the colors. Okay, we'll start with pink since you said pink.
Okay, thanks.
I think someone come in too. So this might be our last little fun time until David comes on. And then it'll be really fun. But anyway, pink is appreciation or thank you. It says it also can mean please believe me. I guess if you get into an argument, please believe me.
I've never heard of that one. I've heard
either.
Of the red being more passion, the white being friendship,
and pink being
appreciation and happiness.
Yeah, and white is purity,
and
innocence. And
yellow though, I do like yellow too.
Friendship.
It's a good color.
Could send you
well,
yellow
now I
roses.
feel bad though because I feel like he's gonna think he needs to send me roses.
She will be appreciative of whatever you send.
I will, but not necessary. It's really not. They just die. Although he did get me last year for our anniversary. He got me a hydrangea bush, and it was it was actually a tree. It's one of the new ones, but it was pink and it was beautiful. But it was so incredibly hot, and we didn't have any shade in our backyard, and it died.
Like a snowball bush?
Died. Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
It was really pretty. But
I don't call them by their
by their official names. Wait, what did you say it was?
A snowball bush. I think that's the same thing.
I'll take your word for it, Karen.
Okay. Well, we're going to go on a quick commercial break, and we will be right back.
Hello.
I think we're ready for a commercial break.
Thanks, Brian. He's cracking me up.
All right. Y'all look gorgeous.
When was the last time you checked your insurance coverage? Would you have enough to cover a serious loss? Contact Jonna Pritt from Liberty Mutual today to review your policy. Her number is 423-894-1237.
And we are back. We are already having a good time tonight. I can tell we're going to have a fun show. So, Carrie, do you want to introduce our next guest? Our only guest, really. He's taking a photo. It's a smile for the camera. Smile.
Oh, well, our next guest is David Carroll. And as Lacey and I mentioned earlier, we had the opportunity to hear him speak not too long ago at the PRSA luncheon. He did a fabulous job, and he's here to talk a little bit about his experience and his book.
I am. And I brought you presents.
Oh,
You did.
It's Valentine's Day.
Oh, sweet. See, we have
Hey, we just talked about Valentine's
So
Day.
I knew I was going to be with two beautiful ladies tonight, and I know what ladies like. So there's your very own peanut butter and chocolate milkshake
Oh my goodness.
from Roy's,
Ooh, Roy's.
freshly made.
Thank you so much. I'm going to drink this on air.
nice.
That's awesome.
Well, while we're at
Thank you
it,
so
Straw.
much.
thank you.
Now,
Well,
guys, if you want to get to a woman's heart,
it's through her stomach.
milkshakes.
Milkshakes. Hey, thank you. I don't think we've ever
Thoughtful.
had a guest to bring us.
We haven't.
gift.
We haven't. But, you know, we don't want to eat or drink without, you know. So we'll return the paper without the chocolate.
Wow. You know, I think this should be a tradition on this show. When you come and see Carrie and Lacey, bring a gift.
Preferably milkshakes.
Milkshakes.
That's wonderful.
Milkshakes always. Well, this is beautiful. Thank you. Truffles and a
So,
card.
You are fresh off of the 6 o'clock news.
I am.
Everything still running smoothly.
Everything's good. Do
Okay.
you know why I took your picture? I'm going to tweet it.
Are
I'm going to put you on Twitter. And you folks who aren't on Twitter, get on Twitter. You can see Lacey and Carrie's picture later on. It's David Carroll 3. You're on Twitter.
I am.
I am too, but I don't know if. I think I follow you.
You need to follow me.
So
I think
he
I
can,
do.
he
And
can
I'll follow
tag
you
your
too.
handle.
Okay.
And see, if you're not on Twitter, this isn't as bad as it sounds. It's not like we're stalkers or
No,
anything.
you're not really following them anywhere.
Yeah.
Just
But,
around.
but like if you have some random thought about the Braves or something like that, I will see it right there. And
That is true.
know?
Did you make it to the caravan today? They were in town.
No, I was busy. I had to do a news story. My job got in the way.
I know, mine too.
That always happens.
You know, I even had it on my calendar.
Did you see
today.
the line?
No, I
I
wanted
saw
to
the
go,
line
but I was
on
out
the
of town.
news on Channel 3.
Oh, I mean, they were weaving around Market and Broad, and
Oh,
it was
really?
like wrapped around buildings.
You know, I wondered. I thought they would be better off at Academy like they were
Yeah.
beforehand.
Or a mall or something. But again, I'm not to take anything away from the people who hosted it, Taco Mac. I'm sure they're great. But yeah, lots of people turned out, and I hope they all got to see Jason and
Good.
Freddie and Corey.
I hope so.
That's nice.
I noticed Rome had Chipper Jones, though, and Dan Adler, so I was a little jealous.
Chipper went on a caravan?
I know.
To Rome, Georgia?
Well,
I know Rome
I'm
Braves.
thinking maybe it was because it was the closest stop. I don't know.
And the Rome Braves are there.
Everybody from Rome right now is going, well, why is Carrie saying that about Rome? What you got
I
against
spent a
Rome?
lot of time in Rome.
Yeah, you did. You
did,
did.
she
It's
did.
a great place.
So your book,
Yes.
we got the pleasure to hear you talk a couple of weeks ago.
Was it a pleasure, really?
It really
It
was.
was.
Oh, that's
It
sweet.
was.
Thank you.
Well, I learned so much that I didn't know.
We had to stand in line to talk to you. You were very popular.
That is true.
Well, not as popular as the Braves, but still, it
Well,
was
and
nice.
we were almost up to you that day, and then somebody cut in line too, and I said, "Well, we'll just wait." But how did you get? I guess kind of the background of it. What made you want to put this book together?
I'm just a fan. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I've been on the radio and TV for way back, 30-something years. But, you know, all these people who are in the book, like Luther and Miss Marcia, and even the people I work with today, Cindy Sexton, Jed Mescon, I mean, you know, I know them, and they're just regular folks, but I mean, I love watching them on TV. Tommy Jett, you know, I mean, I grew up listening to him on the radio. He's still on the air. And even people who are no longer with us, who are before your time, Harry Thornton, Mort Lloyd, Roy Morris, people that some of our viewers will remember from decades ago. You know, these are people that I watched and loved and learned from, and nobody had ever done a book about them, you know. So I felt it was time to do that. And there's something about being in a book. You know, we all have our books at home, and, you know, they live for generations, and people look at them 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now. So it makes me feel good that people who buy this book, you know, will have it and keep it, and their kids will see it. And it's just, I think, an honor to be in a book. So hopefully I honored some people. Tried to, anyway.
That is good to know. You know, my favorite part of it, too, is working in the PR field in Chattanooga now. I've actually gotten to know some of these people and to see the pictures from years ago.
Yes. That was a
Don
good
Welch,
part.
I almost didn't recognize
Oh, yeah,
him.
and Calvin Sneed, back when he had, you know, a big head full
He
of hair.
still looks the same, though.
Except
to
for the
me.
hair.
Well, except for the hair. That is true. But Don Welch, I remember when you put the picture up there, I almost didn't recognize
Well,
him.
and Don, that's another reason for the book, Lacey, is that when you go through the book, you see that Don Welch has been on local TV and radio 50 years. Miss Marcia at Channel 9, 50 years next month. Luther, 71 years. Tommy Jett, 50 years. I mean, you know, this is really a milestone. It's tough to do any job that long, anything, any career. But in TV and radio, where people, you know, switch around and change around, it's really remarkable. That's a picture there from the first book signing we did at Northgate, and that was such a fun day. Gary Mack is there with Luther and Miss Marcia and me, and we had it at Northgate, and, you know, I'd never done a book before, and I didn't know if anybody'd show up. We had a Braves Caravan type line there, mainly to see Luther and Marcia. I mean, they're just local legends, and everybody loves them.
That story you told that day at the meeting was so funny.
Oh yeah, I mean, Luther didn't expect to sit for 3.5 hours, and, you know, sometimes you got to take a nature break, and he was in need of one. So eventually he got to it. Everybody was happy.
Well, and Miss Marcia, too, I remember I actually went to Pink a couple of weeks ago, and there was another lady sitting at my table, and she was about my age, and when Miss Marcia started to walk by, she grabbed my leg and she said, "Oh, it's Miss Marcia." And we just got so excited. But I mean, it was like just watching your childhood hero, you know, somebody you grew up with.
And that there's another picture of me and Luther and Marcia. Marcia, to me, is really one of my sweethearts, I guess is the best way to put it. I'm in love with her. I mean, she's just the kindest, sweetest. It's really something when you meet a celebrity, and I certainly I consider her a celebrity. And for instance, 20 years ago, she was somewhere that I was at, might have been a church, and I had my 2 little boys with me. At that time, they were 4 and 1 or something. And I introduced them to her, and, you know, you make nice with people and all that. And I see Marcia 10 years later, you know, hardly ever see her. And she's like, "How are Christopher and Vincent?" And I'm like, whoa,
wow.
My own family has trouble remembering their names. And you? And I'd see her 5 years later. "How are Christopher and Vincent?" I'm like, my goodness. And I found out it's not just me. Everybody she meets, she can do that.
I've heard
just
that.
Wonderful.
I have heard that. Oh, wow.
And then Luther.
Oh, yeah. What a legend. As I told you guys at that luncheon that day, there's nobody else, no other city in the country, in the world, can lay claim to the longest running broadcaster ever.
71 years, is that right?
And still going on the same time at the same station. One of the stories that I enjoy telling, every year we have a little reunion of our local radio and TV people, guys and ladies who've known each other for decades. And we gather at Wally's over at East Ridge, and every year we get up and each tell, you know, what we're doing now and the stations we used to work at and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, some guys get up there and say, "Well, I used to work at WFLI, WGOW, WDOD." They'll go down this long list of stations. And eventually we get to Luther. And, you know, "Luther, tell us what you're up to." "Well, you know, I'm still on the radio and TV every day." And we'll just ask him as a straight line, "Now, how many stations have you worked at in your career?" And he'll always pause and go, one. There's nobody else who can say that's amazing. So he'll be 90 on March 9th.
Oh,
and he's doing the same job he did when he was 19. So he's just my hero. And the picture you see there is Luther getting his marriage license with his wife Mary there on the right. Luther was 35. He had never been married. He was this area's most eligible bachelor. Mary was 20. Now keep in mind, you got a 35-year-old guy marrying a 20-year-old girl. And, people are like, wow, somebody finally caught Luther. And they're still married 56 years later. And the thing I love about this picture, you look at 20-year-old Mary there, and she's got that look of a new bride, like, oh, I got my man. And you look at Luther, and he's like, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing?
Now, did you really call him at his house
really
on Sunday nights?
I would.
Every Sunday night?
Not every Sunday night,
Okay.
but every now and then. My parents would bring me into Chattanooga, and we'd go out to eat on Sunday nights. And I was about 12 and wanted to be Luther when I grew up, because I just loved radio so much. So I would go to the phone booth outside a restaurant, and I'd look up Massengill, and his number was in the book, still is. And I would call him and just tell him who I was, and I was 12 years old, and he didn't know me, and what advice do you have for me? And I remember one time I said, I want to be a disc jockey when I grow up. And he said, say that again? I said, I want to be a disc jockey when I grow up. And he paused and said, well, son, you can't do both. You're going to have to either be a disc jockey or grow up. But, there's no such thing. And he would just always give me great advice about, what I needed to be reading and studying, and what I needed to do with my Alabama accent, which I had.
I was curious. How did you lose your accent?
Just practice.
Really?
And he would talk about that. He'd say, David, you need to listen to newscasters and radio announcers that you admire and you respect, and learn from them, because they all came from somewhere too. They all came from Oklahoma or Maine or somewhere. They had an accent, and they managed to lose it. But he was just wonderful about being kind and patient with a 12-year-old. Because you don't have to do that. You can say, I'm busy, call me some other time. He never did that.
You just looked up his phone number.
Yeah, called him cold, and I was very grateful that he was kind enough to be patient with me. It was very nice.
What's one of the most interesting stories you've ever covered?
As far as covering news stories, the school stories are really the ones that I love doing. And unfortunately, some of the interesting ones are, negative. I mean, just because of the nature of them. The ones I enjoy covering the most are the positive ones. I wish we could do more of those. And we do get to cover the positive ones. People don't remember them perhaps as much as they do the negative, but that has really been the highlight of my career, is being able to go inside so many schools. I mean, I was at Rossville Middle today. Did you go there?
I did, 6th and 7th grade.
I went to Ridgeland, but not Rossville Middle School.
Rossville.
Chattanooga Valley? Yep.
Didn't you? You didn't?
8th grade, yes.
Okay.
I switched.
Okay. But y'all still get along even though
Yeah.
different middle schools. That's good.
She's put up with me since,
High school.
But you both went to Ridgeland.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was to talk to some people at Ridgeland today, but I went to the new Rossville Middle School, and that's one of the joys, is just getting to go to all of the schools, the new ones, the old ones. Tomorrow I'm going to Brainerd High School. Monday I'm going to Howard. I mean, somewhere different every day, and I'm really blessed to do that.
And you got to go to New York, what was it, a couple years ago?
Yeah, about a year and a half ago, NBC's Education Nation, and got to hang out with all the big NBC stars, Brian Williams and Matt Lauer and everybody up there. So that's fun, and that's another good opportunity about being a newscaster. You get to go fun places like that, and the station pays for it. So.
Now, speaking of Ridgeland, you had another dear friend and former coworker. I guess she left to take another job, but Amy Morrow, and we've got a picture of her too.
Amy, we miss her so much. There's so many stories I could tell about Amy, because you look at that picture. I mean, that's a movie star picture. She is a beautiful woman.
She is.
Yet, she is one of the guys. I mean, she's a tomboy. She'll be the first to tell you. She can beat you playing tennis. She can beat you playing softball. The first time I met her, actually, I was working at Channel 3 and she was working at Channel 61. And we played a softball game, the two news teams. And I was pitching. And I was really good. Unfortunately, they were a lot better at hitting than I was at pitching. I think Amy was 4 for 4 against me that day. And she was just one of those hitters who knew how to place the ball anywhere she wanted to hit it. and she could run fast, and she was a great outfielder. And I learned then, you don't mess with Amy Morrow. She can beat you at your game.
And
then,
she's a Georgia fan.
And her nickname there was at Channel 3 was Peach. She's the Georgia Peach. We all called her Peach. And she was one of the best crime reporters. And see, that's the difference. I like covering the education stuff, the good stuff. Amy was more of a crime reporter. And she had sources everywhere who would, give her a heads up when there was some big arrest about to be made or a crime that had just been committed. She and Tommy Eason, who's probably watching right now, were a great team. Tommy was a photographer, Amy was the reporter, and they just had all the scoops.
Do you know, I job shadowed her in high school.
Really?
I did, and I remember you, David, when I was in college, I used to write for the school newspaper, and we came up to when George W. Bush was at the convention center.
Yeah, about 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah, and you sat in the media spot.
Right.
And me and the assistant editor, we came up because we felt like we were so big.
I kind of remember that.
Yes, and I looked at you and I said something about Amy Morrow, and you said you remembered my name and where I went to school, and you said, I will tell her you said hi. And that has always stood out to me.
Well, that's so sweet. I remember that. I do, because that was a big day when the president came to town.
Yeah.
But Amy works for Riverbend, Friends of the Festival now, and people ask me every day, where's Amy? What happened to Amy? And we miss her. But she was with us 10 or 11 years and had a great career, and I'm proud to have her in the book. It's a great picture. We have some other pictures, don't we?
We do have some other pictures, Brian, if you can put some of those up there.
Oh, don't you love that?
I do.
Now, the movie
Daryl.
Anchorman. Has everybody seen the movie Anchorman?
Yes, Ron Burgundy.
People have always said Bob Johnson and our guy Bill Markham at Channel 3, were sort of the model for Anchorman because they were on back then in the 1970s, and they wore the leisure suits and the hair and the mustache and everything. Neil Pascal there on the right, is the famous weatherman here, and he's teaching 6th grade science at Ocoee Middle School in Bradley County. And I've been in his class. He makes it like a game show.
How fun.
He's really fun, and he's 6th graders. Y'all remember when you were in 6th grade?
Yeah,
The attention span. Yeah, short attention spans. Neil keeps things moving and asks, little games and gives away prizes. He's just so much fun. Susie Rigsby was one of the first female anchors in Chattanooga. To be honest with you, I don't know what's happened to her. I'd like to know. And Daryl Patterson is there on the left, and he's been at Channel 9 36 years, still doing sports.
I love that hair.
Oh, I got to tell my story on these two.
Yes.
And Jim Neighbors on the right is the familiar face in that picture. Everybody remembers him from Gomer Pyle and still sees him on the Andy Griffith Show. Barbara Malloy on the left, I was just talking to some people about her today. She was a performer along with Jim Neighbors on some of the early TV shows. And you talk about a girlfriend. I mean, she is the sweetest lady. She just turned 80, and she still sings. She had stopped singing for a while, and she was very down and out because her husband passed away. They'd been married 61 years, and she was just so down for a while, and I felt so sorry for her. And it just so happened that the book came out not long after that. And I'm happy to report that she's feeling better now, in large part because her friends who bought the book recognized her and said, Barbara, is that you? And she said, well, that was me, 50 years ago. And they'd say, well, I didn't know you sang. And she'd say, well, I don't anymore. I used to sing, but I just don't feel like singing anymore. And they said, well, you should sing again. Let's hear you sing. And so she put together a little band, a guitarist and a bass player. And now they go around and sing. And she called me New Year's Day, not long after the book came out. And she said, I just want to thank you. I feel like I've got my life back again. People are asking me to sing. I feel better. And that just made my day.
Good story.
That she felt better because of this book. And Jim Neighbors, I mean, wow, he still gives Chattanooga credit for his career. He lives in Hawaii now, and it all started for him at Channel 3.
Now tell the story about that where, you're trying to fill space and walking around the station saying, do you have any talent? Can you sing?
We had a show on at 1 o'clock every day called Holiday for Housewives, and it was a variety show. And this was before my time, so I'm giving you, I don't remember this personally, don't get me wrong, but it was around 1957, and the early days of TV, and everything was very basic. All the stations had a lot of local shows on, and we're just trying to fill time and, see what worked and what didn't. So every day they tried to have an hour of local entertainment. I mean, imagine doing that even now. That's tough, you know. So some days they'd run short, and somebody wouldn't show up, or it would be snowing, and they would literally go around the building just saying, can anybody here fill some time? And they go up to Jim Neighbors, and, you know, he's in the film room. He wasn't even an on-camera guy. He was back there editing. And they said, Jimmy, is there something you can do to fill some time? And he looked at him and said, well, I can sing. They said, you can what? Oh, yeah, I can sing real good. You know, they're like, really? Okay, we're desperate. Get out there and sing. So they put the cameras and the lights on and handed him the microphone, and he started to sing. He has a great voice. I mean, have you ever heard him sing?
Mm-mm.
Oh.
It's not what you expected when you hear him talking.
He has this deep baritone voice, and he just radiates, you know, just rattles the building. And he went on to have a huge singing career. But that day, they're just all looking at him like, what was that? And he said, I told you I could sing. And that's what started it off for him. I mean, they took him to Hollywood and said, you got to see this guy, and you got to hear this guy. And he did real well.
I had no idea until we went to that luncheon.
I didn't either.
His connection to Chattanooga.
Yeah, he was from Alabama, came to Chattanooga to work editing film, and then became a star.
I like how you do the editing film, because back in the day it was really editing
was.
The film itself.
Got a caller.
Using scissors.
Yes.
Hi, caller. Go ahead.
Good evening.
Hey.
Hey, David, this
Yes.
is Annette, and that's the best rendition I've ever heard of Gomer Pyle.
Thank you. I practiced it a lot.
Tell you what, you could sound like him on the before and the after.
Well, you know, where I grew up, that's what most of us sounded like. I mean, in rural Alabama, we had a little twang. So he wasn't faking it at all. I mean, that's what he sounded like.
Well, I tell you, I know a lot of you from the mountain, and not true necessarily, but he really has a marvelous voice, and a lot of people don't know the story behind, you know?
Well, you take, Lacey and Carrie, they're just babies, and a lot of this stuff happened before they were around. So I'm educating them.
I'm not a baby anymore, and I remember when he was on. I was in high school then, so...
Who's that?
I do. I watched, the shows that he was involved with there
Jim
on
Neighbors.
Macaulay.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of interesting history here, don't we? And I'm so glad you wrote the book. It's great.
I'm proud of it, and it seems to make a lot of people happy. Just today, I was at First Baptist, Lakeview First Baptist, just up the street, and had the best time. Their senior adults group, they fed me, and they, laughed at my jokes, and they saved a parking space for me right next to the church, to keep me from carrying my heavy stuff a long way. Very considerate people. And I told them to watch tonight, so, all you folks who were saying you were going to watch today, James and Peggy Sue and Vanita, all of you, Charles, appreciate you watching tonight.
Miss Marcia would be proud you remembered their names.
Some of them. Well, that's about 4 out of 40, so.
And we've got that graphic, too, of where they can actually purchase the book. It's www.chattanoogaradiotv.com.
That's it, ChattanoogaRadioTV.com. If you go on that website, it has a lot of pictures from the book, and it's a little thing there that says, click here to order, and I'll send you an autographed copy. And with Valentine's Day coming up, if you don't have a great milkshake nearby, this book lasts longer anyway.
That is true, well, and longer than the flowers, too.
And longer than candy. It'll be there forever.
So we've got a few more.
Yeah, this is Betty Mack. We wanted to spotlight some of the women, the female pioneers in broadcasting. And I bet a lot of people watching this evening remember when Betty Mack was on TV every day. Just look at her. Look at that hair and the earrings and the necklace. I mean, she just always looked like $1 million. And she did a lot of fashion shows and, displayed art and just has so much class. And she still lives in Red Bank and contributed a lot of pictures to the book. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to show off some of the ladies tonight on Gurlfriendz.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've got another caller. Hi, caller. Go ahead.
Hey, Mr. David. I don't know if you remember me or not. You remember Coach Wells won at Coast at North Sand Mountain for a couple of years ago, don't you?
Yeah. Whatever happened to you?
This ain't Tommy. This is one that used to help him, Coach Starr.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you remember my uncles also, the Leuven brothers. I hadn't heard you mention them from Sand Mountain either.
The Louder Milks.
Yeah, they're known now. Remember, they're known as the Leuvens now.
Yeah, they grew up was it in Henniger, Alabama?
Yeah, and I don't know if you've heard, Uncle Charlie passed away last year.
Yeah, and
Yeah, he passed away. He had that pancreatic cancer, and it got him back last January.
Well, Charlie Louvin, and of course Ira too, who passed away many, many years ago. But Charlie, I got to meet him back at Channel 12 in the 1980s, and man, you talk about a legend. I mean, wow. You know, all these guys who are out there singing and making hit records today grew up listening and idolizing his music, and you hear a lot of his music in their music.
Yeah, you don't hardly hear any of that music anymore that y'all used to play on US 101.
Well, that's true. I mean, I wish they played more of the classics. The Legend plays some. You know, that's a good station. But yeah, Charlie Louvin is. I mean, he's a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame, and I'm proud to say he's a Sand Mountain guy. So that's great.
Yeah, just like all of us, we're proud to be from Sand Mountain.
You got it, Coach. Good to hear from you.
Thank you,
Thank
Dave.
you. Mm-hmm.
You know, I remembered when I actually heard a song on The Legend, classic country, that I remembered when it initially came out, and I started to feel a little old that they're starting to play those
Maybe
now.
we're not such babies.
I don't know, apparently not.
So let me get this
It's a
straight.
Garth Brooks song or something.
Oh, well, see, that's the thing. You know, Garth, yeah, if you were listening when Garth first came out, yeah, you're starting to get on up
Back
there.
in the 90s,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're starting
to get
up
there.
You're knocking on 30.
I am.
Oh, here we go.
years.
There's another picture.
Oh, don't you love that? I'll tell you a couple things about this picture. That's the picture that's on the cover of the book. And when the publisher was asking about what to put on the cover, they asked me to send my five favorite pictures. And this was obviously one of them. And the reason they chose this was because of the little boys. I mean, it's just so cool.
Their faces.
Yeah, I mean, you see some of them who are smiling, some of them who are acting goofy, you know, some of them who are looking at the camera, some not. And that's Bob Brandy in the middle. And many of us remember when Bob Brandy was on Channel 9 every afternoon at 5 o'clock. We'd get home from school. There wasn't any, you know, Jerry Springer or any of that junk on TV. Bob played the guitar. He sang. He had his horse. He had a beautiful wife. They played games with these kids. You could win a little Debbie. You could win a moon pie. You could win a silver dollar. And the cool thing about this picture, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those kids who are now like my age, who I've met since the book came out. They found themselves, this is a group from Red Bank, the White Oak Cub Scouts. And so I've met 5 of these guys. And one of the most touching stories, I don't know if I can pinpoint him on this picture, but one of the little boys passed away when he was just a teenager. And his mother called me and said, I've heard that my son is in that picture, but it's, I think, one like near the back of the book, or on the back of the cover. And she said, do you have the original photograph that I can have, you know, because I miss him so much. And so I was able to copy this photograph and enlarge it and give it to her.
Wow.
But it's been cool, you know, just that people have so many memories of going to Channel 9, it used to be on Signal Mountain, and being on TV. And when you were, you know, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, if you got to be on the Bob Brandy show, I mean, you were a star. And I'm jealous because I never got to be on there. But it was a big deal to a lot of us when we were kids. Oh, okay. I brought that one because we're talking about girlfriends and women in the media. If you look at the far right, that's my wife. Cindy was known as Cindy Haynes on the radio back then. She did news for KZ106 and WGOW, and I was a disc jockey at the time. And Cindy, just on the far right of your screen, right above the gentleman who's seated, was doing news at that time. And the other cool thing about that picture is that because of all the changes in radio and everything these days, not many stations have full-time news people working in radio. And back then, gosh, let's see, there's somebody there from 1, 2, 3, 4 different radio stations and a couple of TV people too. But I love that picture. Pam Newby was, did you all remember her, or is she before your time?
I think she was before our time.
Pam, before Mary Ellen Locher was an anchor person on Channel 9, Pam Newby was with Bob Johnson every day. And then even before that, she was on Channel 3 with C.J. Butine. And I've lost track of Pam, but she had a lot of fans and viewers back in the 80s and maybe part of the 90s. Sky Yancey is another one. I know she's before your time. She was on Channel 3 back in the early 80s. And she later moved to Kentucky and California, but she was sort of the Cindy Sexton of Channel 3 before Cindy got there. I think we've seen that one before for people who just tune in. Okay, this is, I got to tell my story about this. Have y'all ever heard of Debbie Bear?
No, I haven't.
Okay, Debbie was on PM Magazine on Channel 3, and she was actually discovered while she was working at a Red Food store in Chattanooga. And she was about 18 and just as cute as a button. And the news director for Channel 12 was getting groceries one night and said, you know, you're so cute and so personable. You ever thought about being on TV? She's like, no, I want to be a teacher. She was going to Tennessee Temple. And he said, come over to the station and try out. So they took her over there and put her in front of a weather board. Back then it was a real wall, you know, the weather and the map and the magnets and everything. And said, pretend you're doing the weather. And she just laughed and giggled, and she had no idea anything about weather, didn't know which state was which. I mean, she just kind of dissolved into tears at the end, said, I told you I didn't know anything about the weather. And they said, well, it doesn't matter. You know, you are a natural. We'll teach you how to do weather. And she became immediately like Chattanooga's sweetheart. You know, all the older folks felt like she was their daughter or granddaughter, and all the guys like me wanted to go out with her. And I think I asked her out once. That didn't work out so well because she didn't call back. But I still love her, and she became
You should have taken her a milkshake.
That's where I went wrong. That's where I went wrong. But she's been in Nashville since 1985 and has hosted a lot of TV shows there, and she's still on some commercials.
So she still lives there?
Mm-hmm. And married, 4 grown sons, and she's just a sweetheart. But she was a big part of Channel 3's success back in the 80s. Oh, I love this picture. One of my favorite pictures in the book. Do y'all recognize the lady on the left?
Well, I know it, but only because I saw the file name.
Carrie, any ideas?
No.
Ever see Diane Sawyer on ABC
Yes.
News? There you go.
Are you serious?
That was Diane Sawyer in 1963. She was at Channel 3 on the Roy Morris show. Roy was a very popular host back in the day. She was America's Junior Miss, 1963, from her home state of Kentucky. And one of the things I love about that picture, now we have this show 3+U that's on every day at 11. And last year we had America's Junior Miss on the show. And I showed her this picture. I said, hey, you know, you never know.
Could be you one day.
Could be Diane Sawyer. But frankly, when you look, she hasn't changed a whole lot.
She really
you know?
hasn't when you
really
look in the
looks good.
face.
And that was almost 50 years ago.
Wow.
But I love that picture.
Now I know who that is.
Sandy.
I mean, I look at this picture from 1985, and I look at pictures of me from 1985, and I see how I've aged and you know,
She looks the
shrunk and wrinkled, and she has not changed. Cindy Sexton is one of the most beautiful women in the world, and a joy to work with every day.
She has beautiful eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and you know something, an interesting story, I don't think this made it to the book, but some years back, after she'd been at Channel 3 for just a few years, she, like many of us, wanted to advance to a bigger city. So she sent out tapes of herself to, you know, this town, that town, wondering if someone would hire her. And a TV station in Nashville was one of those that she applied to, and they sent her a letter rejecting her because her eyes were too distracting.
Really?
And I'm like you,
Oh,
Lacey. I think
wow.
I watch her
I mean,
because.
that's all the more reason
Yeah.
to watch, yeah.
But we're lucky they didn't hire her. She's
That
been
is
at,
true. We're
She's
glad-
been at Channel 3
glad
20,
she stayed.
25, 26 years. Frenchie Brewer was on Channel 3 in the 80s, maybe early 90s. She was a weekend anchor, and one of our favorite stories about Frenchie, she was single and very much, you know, just, you know, the beautiful lady around town, real petite and cute, and wore beautiful clothes and just always looked like $1 million. And one day she did a news story about a baby that had been abandoned. You know, we have to do those from time to time, sad, tragic stories. And as a reporter, you know, you try to be compassionate about that and try not to get too personally involved, you know, otherwise you'd break down and cry on TV. Frenchie got so involved in that story, she adopted that baby. And that was 20 years ago, and that baby's about to graduate from college. Frenchie and her daughter Alexa live in Columbia, South Carolina now. But that was, to us who worked with her, just such a beautiful example of someone who not only, you know, got involved in a story, but may have saved a child's life and gave her a great life.
That's really cool.
So we really admire Frenchie. She's a sweetie. Harry Thornton. Now, I know you've heard of Harry Thornton. Everybody in North Georgia's heard of Harry Thornton because he was a Ringgold guy. But he was the wrestling promoter. He was the morning show host who was the first to be very controversial. And Judy O'Neill will be the first to tell you, she probably learned a little from watching Harry Thornton. If you watch Judy and you know how fired up Judy can get, Harry Thornton was, I'm sure, a big influence on her. Judy Korn is the lady in the picture with Harry, and she's still in Chattanooga. But I give Harry a lot of credit for being controversial, confrontational, getting people stirred up. And a lot of people remember him. He passed away in 1982, just a few months after he retired. But he was a big star around here for many years. There's somebody? Oh, Dancing Dorothy from KZ106 on the right with Jeff Stiles, who's still on the radio every day.
Yep.
Jeff's kind of let his hair change a little over the years. But Dorothy is in the book, too. She was a receptionist at WGOW and KZ106, and they used to let her come on the KZ106 morning show just to read some announcements. Well, she's got a lot of sass and a lot of soul, and she became a big star, too. And she's a sweet lady who helped me a lot with the book. Dancing Dorothy. Let's see, that's the Channel 12 team. Let's see, we have Kevin Billingsley on the left, Rebecca Williams, former beauty queen there, wearing the red. I think that's Ted Perry in the middle, Linda Edwards, who was on for many years on the Noon Show with Luther, and David Neal, the weatherman on the right. That's from about 1992, something like that. And there we have the picture of Luther and Mary getting their wedding license, marriage license again. I love that picture.
So can you talk just a little bit about how much the things have changed since even the 90s until now, just social media and...
Yeah, that's there's a sweet picture of Miss Marcia there. Yeah, since the time I got to Channel 3, for example, in 1987, I mean, back then we'd go out and do a news story and interview people and come back and write it up and put it on the news, and that was it. Now we do that, plus we write a story for our website, we tweet it, we put it on Facebook and our mobile devices, and just so much more now. And the thing is, too, when I was growing up, there were 3 TV channels and a newspaper and some radio stations. And now, how many TV stations do you get at home? Any idea?
300 and
Yeah.
something.
How many do you watch?
Not many.
But that's the difference. We're all fighting for smaller pieces of the pie now. And just to stay in business, we've got to really hustle to stay current and local and make sure that people trust us for the news. And it's a lot harder than it used to be just to get attention and to make a name for yourself. So yeah, that's been a huge change. But the cool thing is we can do things so much better now. Today, for example, the Braves Caravan. 30 years ago when they used to do that, then we would take